He says he wants to be your top law enforcement officer, and you'll meet him tonight. Good evening. Welcome to My State of Mind. I am Dan Yorke. You see us at 7:30, originally each night, repeat at 11:30, and on foxprovidence.com/MyRITV. After the broadcast, you can catch us online and keep us in perpetuity if you would like. Seriously, if you miss a program or if you want to go back and tell somebody about something you saw, you can certainly go back and check it online. We are multi-platformed here. It is always a pleasure to be in your living room or wherever your TV happens to be, or your mobile device. Dawson Hodgson is my guest tonight. He's the state senator from South Kingstown et al., who has been a guest here before as we've talked about things like 38 studios and why there's no legislative diligence on that. Well, some of his thoughts and the way he's carried himself have led him to think that maybe he ought to take a different role, that of Attorney General, and we'll meet him tonight in a few moments. But let's first go to the rundown. I'm on a state of confusion. I think that's where Rhode Island is. We'll check on that. The Secaucus Bridge Commission was due this afternoon to come out with a report en route to a recommendation as to how to toll that structure. And the mayor in Cranston is being urged to testify, or will be formally tomorrow night, as the parking ticket blitz continues to rage on. And this is hilarious. I'm not a cat guy, but I'll hold my thought. To our first rundown item so that we may extrapolate. The state of the state, it's the season, state of the state all throughout the states. You know, at the top of the calendar year, governors talk about their states, mayors talk about their cities, and presidents talk about their countries. And so January is chock full of that. Last night, actually late yesterday afternoon, we'll get back to that in a second, but last night, yesterday afternoon, the gentleman who runs the state of New Jersey, who's had some difficulties, Chris Christie, talked about his problems before the actual state of the state.
Now, the last week has certainly tested this administration. Mistakes were clearly made, and as a result, we let down the people we're entrusted to serve. I know our citizens deserve better, much better. Now, I'm the governor, and I'm ultimately responsible for all that happens on my watch, both good and bad. Now, without a doubt, we will cooperate with all appropriate inquiries to ensure that this breach of trust does not happen again. But I also want to assure the people of New Jersey today that what has occurred does not define us or our state.
You know, it's interesting. I was talking to my brother-in-law in the state of New Jersey yesterday about this. He's saying, yeah, you know what, people are going to forget this. I said, as long as he's telling the truth. He goes, oh, yeah. He's not telling the truth about the bridge thing. He's all done. But there's so many people who still think it's possible that he's not telling the truth, that he had no idea about his Bridgegate challenges there. Time will tell, but it is a tenuous situation in New Jersey. Despite that, Chris Christie said the state of the state of New Jersey is good, but could be better. What does he say? Oh, no, good and getting better. So today I thought I'd have some fun with our own state, since we are North Jersey. Yeah, Jersey's like Southern Rhode Island, and Rhode Island's like North Jersey. We're kind of the same place. Here's the headline in the Providence Journal today: Chafee plans combined address. Now, I'll let you in a little secret. I don't want you to tell anybody about this, okay? It's between you and me. We produce this program in a late afternoon, and you see it at 7:30. So many of you have already seen the governor live, all 6 of you who thought it was important to watch, because I'm thinking the numbers for that state of the state aren't going to be that high, albeit it's important. So I have to talk about what the governor said tomorrow. Can you figure that timing out? Anyway, by the time you've seen this, he has told us what the state of the state is, but I figured, heck, let me go to my radio listeners, because they can tell me what the state of the state was, and they did.
State of the state is blank.
The state of the state is a big mistake.
I think the state of the state of Rhode Island is great if you're a municipal worker or a criminal.
In terms of the citizenry, I'd say we're in a state of sheepism. Most of the citizens believe the government is trustworthy still. I don't understand that.
How about, I'm going to take one from the good Linkmeister himself. How about trending in the wrong direction?
You know, this is where the leadership void most shows itself, when folks have a good time poking fun at the state of the state. And it's only leadership and vision that will turn that whole thing around. My guess is we didn't get much of that tonight, but 2014, at least in election season, we have the hope that someone will break out as a visionary leader, and the state of the state shall move forward. Stay optimistic. All righty. Next item, real quick. Secundit Bridge Commission, and again, based on timing, their afternoon report today don't have the details, but I find it very interesting. A conversation that well, here's a headline. Do we have a headline? No, I didn't make a headline. That's on me. I didn't have a headline for this one. But I will tell you that we have a piece of tape from the Newsmakers show this past weekend where Tim and Ted had Leader Mattiello and Minority Leader Newberry on, and they were prognosticating about what could be the future of tolling on the Secundit River Bridge.
I will tell you, I argued for the placeholder. It's in fact in place at 10 cents, so I don't think there's any prejudice to anyone except the state's allowed to maintaining the tolling should we find that that's the best thing to do.
My prediction, and I know people in the East Bay may not want to hear this, just my prediction, not what I necessarily want to see happen, is that the tolls will in fact go up. And the reason I say that is very simple. By default, they're going to go up, and I misspoke on another show, competitor show a couple weeks ago, but it's in April. And that means we have to act in some capacity to prevent them from going in effect to the full value of whatever the Bridge and Turnpike Authority wanted by April.
And Brian Newberry there didn't think about this now. He didn't think, check your calendar, it's January 15th. He didn't think that the legislature could act quickly enough to undo those tolls by April. That's your return on investment. He also said he didn't think that the further away a legislator was from the Secundit River Bridge that they would acquiesce to no tolls. In other words, the parochialism, the provincialism of Rhode Island would rear its head during this entire thing. All I know is this: the economy of Aquidneck Island depends on that overpass to be untolled. T-O-L-L-E-D. We'll see. We'll talk about that tomorrow as well. Real quick to Cranston. Mayor, please testify. This is going to get sticky. Headline, Providence Journal today. Stikos wants Fung to testify on retaliatory ticking. That's the ticking blitz, the parking ticket blitz from November of last year, first revealed by the councilors Stikos and Arquetto in Cranston last month. They've been a guest on this program twice. And it's interesting, we chatted, I've played this clip a couple of times. We chatted about whether the now suspended chief of police could be brought to the council. Do you have the charter right to ask the chief to come and answer questions about this process?
Yes, we can subpoena. We have subpoena powers, or we can request any department head before the city council.
Have you thought about doing that?
Yes.
This might be the second time I've said, have you thought about doing something? You guys, I don't know, and then maybe you do later. Who knows?
Right, that might happen, yeah. But we're surprised by what's happened, and there also is the law enforcement officer's Bill of Rights, and I don't know if that covers him.
No, well, whether the chief is covered by the officer's Bill of Rights, which is a really overarching protection for police officers, I don't think there's a mayoral Bill of Rights. And so, bringing Alan Fung on for a little testify would be very provocative. Now, when reporters have asked Mayor Fung whether or not he knew anything about this parking ticket blitz, he's responded with the words, "Are you kidding me?" Well, Alan, you could say that to the council too, but it seems to me that the council has every right to try to find out, at least on a cursory level, what's happened here. And I hope to heavens that the mayor is not going to hide behind the idea that the state police, now that they're running the police department, have ordered him not to talk about this publicly. They tend to do that, the state police. It doesn't mean, with all due respect to our Rhode Island's finest, that he's got to comply. Leading and communicating with the city is as, if not, more important. And finally, I cracked up when I read this today. This is a story circulating throughout the nation. A new study finds that your cat doesn't know you to be a human your cat thinks you're just another cat. I think a lot of people think that cats are smart, as they say in Rhode Island. That's not so smart. Now, because we are gratuitous and because we are goofy, we figured we had to show you a cat, as if you've never seen a cat before. That is Jess. What's the name of the cat?
Piper.
That's Jess's cat, Piper. I told Jess prior to the broadcast today that I'm allergic to cats, which is why I have a bias to begin with. She said so did she. So she kept Clarendon in business all the time that she was living with her cat. She's not living with her cat anymore. It's the family cat. But I knew she had a couple of cats in her day because you can tell cat people, you know. When you see them, you can tell if they have multiple cats. And I just want to let you know, I think if you have more than 2 cats in your house, you're weird. And now you need to know that all those cats that you think love you for the person that you are don't even know that you're a person. The joke's on you, cat people. When we come back, he wants to be the Attorney General. I wonder if he has any cats. Stay with us. We kind of knew this was coming, but this headline kind of confirmed that Dawson Hodgson wants to be your Attorney General. He's been a guest on the program before and certainly a lot on the radio because A, he's a good guy, and B, he's actually the only guy that's got the you-know-whats to actually say the right things, at least in part, about the studio, or the 38 Studios thing. Congratulations on your decision.
Thank you, Dan. Great to be here.
And you know, I say that because it takes a bunch to actually come to a decision to run for major office, don't you think?
It's something that I had to think long and hard about. Talked to a lot of important people in my life, most specifically my family.
Sure.
But we're all excited. This is a year of challenges and opportunities, and the leadership that's needed in this state is clearly it's the missing piece to moving the state into a better place.
By the way, I just want to break off for a second because Dawson and I were talking during the break. This might have got by me. It happens from time to time that the Secundit River Bridge Commission report deadline was extended, so we may not get one today, correct, or tomorrow or the next
That's my
day?
understanding, Dan, that they pushed out the reporting date.
Do you think they know what they're doing?
I don't think that there's a plan. And I think that's why we saw the half measures that we saw at the end of the budget session with the 10-cent toll.
All right, we'll talk about the incumbent Attorney General in a little bit in the next segment, but give me the 30-second synopsis on why it is that you decided that you wanted to be the top law enforcement officer.
Well, in many ways, Dan, it's really a homecoming for me. My professional background was as a state prosecutor. That's why I went to law school. I interned in the office. I prosecuted there from 2005 to 2010, and it was a tremendously fulfilling experience. As I've told you before, there's nothing like going to work every day and your only job is to do justice. I have the skills that are necessary to be a good Attorney General. I have the leadership vision that this state needs, and there's an opportunity there because frankly, the Attorney General is not performing the function of that office the way that I would like to see it be done. I know I'll do better.
That's an interesting answer, because I'm always harping on candidates to have a purpose rather than a personal goal when it comes to running for office. And your answer is somewhat hybrided. I mean, you feel a sense of personal satisfaction in seeking this job, which is okay. But it seems to me you got to have a lofty, I got to get this done in that job type of disposition. Do you?
Well, indeed, Dan. And being a prosecutor, I believe, is a calling. And like I said, it's why I chose the law. I wanted to be a criminal prosecutor. I wanted to stand up for the people. I really did want to serve justice. But a lot of people want to do important things or nice things. That's not why I should be elected. The current Attorney General has fallen down in some key areas of responsibility that I would do differently.
Namely 38?
Namely 38 studios.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Sure.
We'll get to Peter Kilmartin. He's your Attorney General. You may find him at a milk carton somewhere. You're allowed to laugh at that. Here's Nick Mattiello, again, the majority leader on Newsmakers this past weekend, talking about 38. When Tim pressed him, are you sure nobody really knew in the rank and file when they approved the loan guarantee program at $75 million for Kurt Schilling's deal?
Every lawmaker comes on the show and says they just passed this program and had no idea that this amount of money was going to go to Kurt Schilling's business. Is that your line?
That's the reality of the situation. When members come on this show or any other show or make any statement saying they didn't know, they did not know.
They did not know. But here's what else he said about the loan guarantee program and what maybe should or could have happened.
I was voting for a job guarantees program, as all of our membership was, a loan guarantee program. Because if you remember, at that time, the banking crisis was in full swing, and banks weren't lending money. Our companies couldn't get access to capital. So to me and the rest of the membership, it seemed like a natural fit. It seemed like a good thing to do. I advocated for a loan guarantee program on the floor, and I still think a loan guarantee program would have been an appropriate thing to do. It should have been given out in smaller increments to more companies, and it should not have all been given to 38 studios. That vetting process took place in the EDC.
Oh, you know, come on, man. Sell it to the Air Force. First of all, amendments were offered on the floor of the House the famous night that this thing was passed to keep it limited. At least discussion was offered, and they were rooted off into the what. That's the kind of thing that an attorney general should be looking at, saying, you know what, well, you know what, there's incongruities here, right?
Well, Dan, the current Attorney General is in a tough position to make that call because he was there that night. He voted for this bill. So it's really no surprise that he's not going after his very close legislative allies. Don't forget, he was the majority whip, not during the night of this vote, but leading up to this session. And he was Gordon Fox's right-hand man, Majority Leader Gordon Fox, Majority Whip Peter Kilmartin.
When people say, well, you're in the state Senate, you came in after this vote, correct?
I did. I came in after. I opposed this project, but it's easy if you're just a candidate, and a number of candidates did. But like the governor said when he took office, you know, then I wanted it to succeed because nobody wants to see something bad happen to Rhode Island. But the Office of Attorney General, if there was ever a set of legal and factual circumstances that fit within the purview of that office, this is it. The talented prosecutors of the criminal division, the investigative grand jury that can get into that, the civil attorneys, none of that was brought to bear. He's been silent.
It's been crickets. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about Peter Kilmartin and what Senator Hodgson thinks he can do right away as the Attorney General. Stay with us. About the Target debit card controversy and like, I mean, you know, he and of course, if you want to ask him about not getting ripped off in attempts to buy tickets for the Patriot game at Denver, you know, he's right there when asked. But and Peter, you can come here anytime you want and talk to me about how you've been in absentia. I'd be happy to do that with you. That's the guy you're running against. He is in many ways persona non grata. I don't know what his act is all about. I mean, I don't want a gratuitously flamboyant attorney general because it's a very, very delicate position to run for and then be a law enforcement officer, but he's been asleep at the switch. And all objectivity, hello. So list for me where you think he's missed.
Well, Dan, you know, I think you can sum it up in the cultural approach that each of us takes. You know, I brought the culture of the Attorney General's office to the legislature. He's brought the culture of the legislature to the Attorney General's office. And that is really the foundation of all the divergence between the two of us. There are going to be many, many contrasts between Peter Kilmartin and myself during this campaign. None of them are as important to me right now as how each of us approached his final year in the legislature. And like we've been discussing, a lot of the issues that I'm facing right now as a relatively new state senator are cleaning up messes that were left behind by the Attorney General and his colleagues.
Real quick.
38 studios, pension reform, early release of violent offenders.
Pension reform is going to be interesting because this ridiculous move by the judge, the Superior Court judge, to allow this case to be meted out in chambers, and whatever deal they're going to do to touch up the thing, I think it's going to fall flat at the legislature. A constitutional question is one thing. Reworking the deal is another. It's not the judiciary's role, but the AG is going to have a peculiar play in this, right?
I expect you're right, Dan. Legislative leadership from both chambers have indicated recently they understand that this mediation process, while they haven't said, as you and I have, that it's inappropriate, they've indicated they know it has no authority whatsoever.
Can you visualize, I know it's hypothetical, if you were the AG, would you have stepped up and said the judge is wrong to be carrying on a negotiation?
Absolutely. Both the taxpayer and the public workers deserve to know, deserve to have finality.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I mean, a radio listener, this is a radio email that was sent to me earlier today when I was talking about Peter Kilmartin. He says, what do Pasco and Rhode Island have in common? They both have a silent AG. I don't know whether that is going to resonate or not, but we got a minute's time. You're short on dough. It's an uphill climb. Regardless of all these issues with Peter Kilmartin, he's an incumbent Democrat in a Democratic state. So
he won with 40% of the vote. I need that 60% that didn't think he should be the Attorney General to vote for me. I'll raise as much money as the people of Rhode Island are going to give to support this effort. I think it's going to be a very broad coalition. My wife calls it the Island of Misfit Toys. I think I have a broad appeal because no matter what people's political persuasions are, they know that I'm a straight shooter, that I answer questions, and that I'm really committed to principles that should be used in government.
We'll talk more as the season wears on. The thing is that the politics of running for the top law enforcement office are delicate. You can't be too crazy political because at the end of the day, you've got to be an objective arbiter of the law.
Dan, that's the approach that I've taken. Like I said, I brought my culture of being a prosecutor into the Assembly. When I get up on the Senate floor, it is in a concise and professional manner, in an effort to represent the people of my district in this state in a way they can be proud of.
All right, we'll talk a lot. Good luck.
Thanks a lot, Dan.
State Senator Dawson Hodgson for AG. Your State of Mind when we come back. Stay with us. For your state of mind, you know there are a couple of ways, 3, 4, 5 ways that you can get a hold of us. Simply give us a voicemail at 228-1886 and we play it on the air. State of Mind at myritv.com is the email, and you can tweet and Facebook post at Dan Yorke Show. That's YORKE. Here's an interesting email that we just received. I thought this was kind of cool. We'll post that. Dan, I'd love to see you interview URI basketball coach, that would be Dan Hurley, and Friar coach, that would be Ed Cooley, on the program some night. Thought it may be interesting. Richard, we had to touch up your email a little bit, but we got your point. Dan Hurley now has his weekly URI basketball show on Tuesdays right in front of me at 7 o'clock on MyRI TV, but he'll come on the show soon. And as far as Ed Cooley is concerned, I'd love to have Ed Cooley here. I'm told by the Friar administration, Ed Cooley will never do this show because he doesn't do talk shows. Ed, come. Let's talk basketball. Good night.